Knicks family, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to some of you. Good afternoon, good evening for some of you. It depends on where you are, I guess. But here we are. The Knicks have one game left to the season. They play the Boston Celtics today at 1 p.m. They got a chance to clinch that fourth seed and go into the playoffs. And who would have thunk it? Going to the playoffs with home court advantage, ladies and gentlemen. Who would have thunk it? The Knicks continue to beat the odds. We'll see what happens as they get into the playoffs. But here we go. The Knicks versus the Boston Celtics today, 1 p.m. And ladies and gentlemen, the Boston Celtics aren't playing anybody. They aren't playing anybody. Andy, what's going on with you, man?
Yeah, what up, Sam? What up to the chat? Yeah, it's like you said. I'm not going to lie. This might be the most comfortable game I'm heading into. It's like Kareem says, it's barbecue chicken all night probably. So
I hope so. The Knicks just, they just can't underestimate the Celtics. And that's one of my big keys to the game. Stay focused and don't underestimate these guys, because they're it's probably going to be a bunch of young guys playing or guys trying to make their name in the NBA and prove that they belong. And they're going to come out playing with something to prove. Their star players won't be there. No Jason Tatum, no Kemba Walker, and those guys. But the guys that they're playing, they're going to look to prove that they belong in the NBA. They got some rookies playing, some guys who've jumped around the league playing and things like that. So, the Knicks just can't, they just got to stay focused. Don't come out feeling like, they're a shoo-in to win, because you just never know what can happen. Once you give a team confidence, that could be it. So the Knicks just got to stay focused, man. Stay focused and do what they do. So quickly, let me take a look at the injury report for the New York Knicks, ladies and gentlemen. Luka Veldoza, Mitchell Robinson, neither one of those guys will be playing today. Of course, Luka Veldoza, was added just maybe a week and a half ago, whatever it is, and probably still going through all of the immigration protocol and whatever he has to go to. Mitchell Robinson, while they have not ruled him out for the playoffs, they haven't ruled him out. He still has a ways to go. For the Boston Celtics, Evan Fournier out. Will not play today against the Knicks. Jason Tatum out. Ankle. Will not play against the Knicks. Robert Williams. He was out yesterday against the Timberwolves. And he's going to be out today against the Knicks. Kemba Walker. He was out yesterday against the Timberwolves. He's not going to play today. Tristan Thompson was out yesterday against the Timberwolves. He's not going to play today. Marcus Smart, he was out yesterday against the Timberwolves. He's not going to play today. Jaylen Brown was out. Well, obviously, Jaylen Brown underwent successful surgery on Thursday and is expected to return in about 3 months. So he's not even playing through the playoffs. Now, yesterday, the Boston Celtics scored 125 points. Evan Fournier and Jason Tatum did play yesterday. But they scored 125 points and they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. Right? So I'm just saying, we can't sleep on these guys. We got to continue to play. 124 points, actually. They beat them 124 to 108. So the Knicks just got to continue to play strong basketball. Don't take these guys for granted and go out there and get the job done. Get that fourth seed and home court advantage. And if they get the fourth seed, then they will they'll be playing Atlanta. If they get that fourth seed, they'll be playing Atlanta in the first round. Right? Because Atlanta owns the tiebreaker over Miami. And so even if they end up tied, and if the Atlanta Hawks lose and the Miami Heat win, they'll end up tied. The Knicks win, they'll end up in the fourth seed. So, and if they lose, I guess they'll be the sixth seed. They'll play Milwaukee. So it's between Atlanta and Milwaukee today. Who you want, Knicks? What do you want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, unless everybody loses. I mean, us, the Hawks, and the Heat, then we're
Right.
still going to be in fourth.
They will still be in the fourth. Right. Exactly. And
But it's still, we're still in a better situation that we can control, our seeding. If we get a W, we're the fourth seed no matter what happens, and it's way better than asking teams to win, lose, whatever happens. So
exactly. And looking at Miami, they don't play Detroit until later on this evening. So depending on if the Knicks win, they probably won't play their guys. There'd be no reason for them to play their guys if the Knicks win, right? So Jimmy Butler and all those guys will most likely sit out. Atlanta, they play Houston at 7. If the Knicks win, then Atlanta's probably going to rest their guys because then they're locked in. They're locked in. No reason for them guys to play. When you look at the rest of the playoffs, and we're going to talk some more about this game today, look at some of the keys and starting lineups and things like that. But when you look at the rest of the playoffs, at the moment, in the Eastern Conference, the Philadelphia 76ers, they've locked down the number 1 seed. I believe the Brooklyn Nets have locked down the number 2 seed. I think the Brooklyn Nets own the tiebreaker over Milwaukee, if I'm right. And Milwaukee can be no better, can get no more than 47 wins. Even if they win and Brooklyn loses today, Brooklyn should have that tiebreaker. Milwaukee will be 3rd. If the Knicks win, they'll be 4th. Atlanta 5th. Miami 6th. The Celtics are locked in at 7. An interesting game tonight is going to be the Wizards and the Hornets. The winner of that game is going to be locked into the 8th seed. And then if Indiana wins, they'll be locked into the 9th seed. And so either the Hornets or the Wizards can drop down to the 10th seed if Indiana wins. Right? Because the Hornets and the Wizards both won the season series over the Pacers. But since they all have tied records, if the Pacers win, one of either the Hornets or the Wizards are going to have a worse record than the Indiana Pacers as long as the Pacers win. So it is possible that they move up to the 9th seed. And it's important because that 9th seed is going to have home court advantage over the 10th seed in the play-in. So that's important.
Yeah, and let's remember, Sim, that they only play one game. So,
One game. Right, one game. So the Celtics and whoever wins between the Hornets and the Wizards, they'll play one game. The Celtics will have home court advantage. Look, if they play the Wizards, I think the Wizards are, I'm not going to say eliminate them, but I think the Wizards win and get that 7th spot. And then the Celtics will play the winner of, Indiana and whoever they play. Or Charlotte, right? If the Wizards win today, which I think they might, they're playing at home, I think they might win. Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal. And I know you got LaMelo Ball and you got Scary Terry over there, but I think Russell Westbrook and I think they get it. And they're looking to win this game and try to move up to that 7th seed. I don't think they're afraid to play Brooklyn. I don't think they're afraid to play Brooklyn, and that's going to be interesting, very interesting. I tend to think that Brooklyn will win that series if Washington gets into that 7th seed, but I don't think it's going to be just I don't think they're just going to walk through them because the Washington Wizards can score the basketball, and Russell Westbrook's going to be on his motivation thing, man. 3 guys that, or 2 guys over there that he played with. And they sent him to the Wizards while they went to Brooklyn. Oh, he's gonna be ready to be on a tear. Trust me, he's gonna be on a tear. And then when you look at the Western Conference, it's still up in the air between the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. Utah Jazz are 51-20. The Phoenix Suns are 50-21. And it looks like the Phoenix Suns won since the Utah Jazz have not locked it down. At this point, that means the Phoenix Suns won the season series. And if the Suns win today, they'll be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. You know what that means for them? And who they might play? that could be, that could be a funny one. They play the San Antonio Spurs today in San Antonio, and the Spurs, they're in the play-in. That's without a doubt, and the Spurs are pretty much locked into that 10th seed, so they might not be playing anybody. They're 33 and 38.
They're locked in.
Yeah, they're locked into that 10th seed. So the Suns might have a good chance of winning today. Or will have a very good chance of winning. They have a good chance of winning anyway. You got the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers. I'm not sure. They're both 47 and 24. Right? So the Clippers could be looking to move up. You have the Dallas Mavericks at 42 and 29. The Portland Trailblazers are 41 and 30. I'm not sure about the season series between those two teams. So that could still be in play. The Lakers and the Trailblazers, that could still be in play. I believe the Portland Trailblazers won the season series over the Los Angeles Lakers. The Mavericks also won the season series over the Los Angeles Lakers. But if Los Angeles wins and the Portland Trailblazers lose, the Lakers can move up to the 6th seed. The Trailblazers, they're playing Denver. Right? And the Lakers are playing, let me check, New Orleans. So there's a good chance you could see a flip-flop there, and the Lakers get into that 6th seed. The Lakers get into the 6th seed, and they're playing the Nuggets or the Clippers, man. That's going to be a crazy first-round matchup. Crazy first-round matchup right there. So some interesting stuff going on in the NBA right now, ladies and gentlemen. And you got the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors both vying for that 8th spot right now.
And Sim, just to add on this topic that we're on, let's look at this way, that this is the last day of the regular season, and basically only one of the 16 playoff spots is secured by the Philadelphia 76ers. The only team that's clinched the first seed, and the games today don't bother them. No, this is what the NBA wanted when they implemented the play-in thing.
Yep.
So, I think they hit a home run, at least for this season. It might look a little bit different if the season was 82 games, because, then some teams would be could end up like with the season series even, because it would be like 2-2, right? Meanwhile, they cut out the games, the 4th game versus the same opponent. So there's basically no way that it can be a 2-2. It's always someone's gonna be always having an edge, with the season series. So I think maybe next season they're gonna stick with the 72 game schedule and the play-ins. Might happen.
I think you're right. I don't know about the 72 game schedule. That's a lot of money that they're missing out on, but I definitely think they're going to stick with the play-in. It'd be interesting to see if they stick with that 72 game schedule, though, because they've been talking a long time about shortening the schedule. But if if they did stick with the 72 game schedule, do they start later?
Or at least spread the games out, so it's less back-to-back games, less traveling, maybe.
Right.
This season is wild because of the virus, right? But maybe they're gonna see that this really worked out pretty well, and they might stick with it. They might also, I don't know, just try to get those teams that basically are even not in the play-ins, just add a couple of games there. I don't know, maybe do a mini bracket for, a playoff, sorry, not a playoff pick, a draft pick, like an additional one, and pick like 64 players, add like 2 picks for a team that's going to win that bracket or whatever. That would, make those fans of teams that didn't make even the play-ins or the playoffs still hang on with the, NBA games, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, most of the teams, fans probably going to watch the playoffs, but you never know. Maybe some fans are just like, I'm only watching my team and nothing else. So
right, and and that's something that I advocated for before, is a playoff a tournament for the teams that didn't make the playoffs, and they win some kind of a draft pick or whatever it is. An extra one. You know what I'm saying? Not the first round draft pick, just an extra one, maybe an extra second round draft pick or something crazy like that. Just
like a between round, whatever, like 31st, 32nd or whatever.
Right.
So maybe that's going to be promising for the teams. And, like you said, because 10 games from every team, that's a lot of games lost. But if they would have like a bracket thing and play, a 2-3 game series, so 2 games win and advance, you could add at least, a couple of games there. So
that would be dope. Let me get to a couple of super chats here. T-Bone, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Neville Humphreys, he says, Sim, please read my comment in the chat. All right, so I'm gonna read the comments so that we can transition over to looking at the lineups. He says, Sim, your argument yesterday was disingenuous since Peyton only plays basically 3 to 5 minutes during the first and third quarters. This means that Coach Tibbs recognizes that he is a liability. My argument was not disingenuous. I was very genuine with my argument that Tom Thibodeau may stick with the same lineup. It's gotten us here. Why change it now? Just continue to do what you're doing. And if you don't want Peyton next year, then you don't bring Peyton back. But again, as you heard Stephanie say last night, and I'll say it again, and I'm going to leave it here and move on because I'm not getting into this whole argument again. I'll let Andy jump in on the comment if he likes. But changing the lineups does not only change Peyton. It changes what you're expecting from Emmanuel Quickly, what you're expecting from Alec Burks, what you're expecting from everyone else on the bench. It changes everything. It changes the way players fit together. Tom Thibodeau, in my opinion, likes with this team, with the team that he has, he likes the rotations that he's using, in my opinion. So I don't see him changing those rotations because Peyton's not playing well at all. He's not. But he serves a purpose because he preserves Derrick Rose. There you go. That's all that you need. That's his purpose. He preserves Derrick Rose. That's what he's doing right now, and I don't think Tom Thibodeau wants to change. If he changed it, would I be okay? I definitely would. If he did not change it, would I be okay? I definitely would. So I'll let Andy jump in there, and I'm going to leave it there. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I'm just going to add in, like you just said, it's preserving Derrick Rose's minutes and his body. He's averaging last couple of games like 26, 28 minutes. So adding those 11, 12 minutes from Elfrid Payton straight to D Rose, that would get him around 37, 38 minutes a game. And I don't think his body is ready, and that we could afford losing D Rose to, a maybe minor injury, or even, him being available to play, but a little bit injured. I rather, just see Elfrid Payton in the lineup for those couple of minutes and, have the rotation set like you said.
Yeah, and just keep it that way. Now, if he chose to change it, okay, I get it. Because, I could foresee, if, say there was, we had a whole preseason, I could foresee him saying, you know what, I'm going to start Derrick Rose, and then off the bench is going to be Emmanuel Quickly, Alec Burks, because Alec Burks is playing some point guard. You bring Frank in, and then you got Taj Gibson, and you got Obi Toppin. You know what I'm saying? I could get that and see that. But I just think at this point, it's been like this for so long, a change may not upset the team and make players mad, but just upset what you got going on. You know what I'm saying? To change what you got going on, and the chemistry and consistency could be off. I think right now, you fought your way with the way that the lineups are to a chance to clinch the 4th seed, and you rock with it. I do understand you got a week off if you wanted to adjust the lineups. You have a week to, try to put it in play, but then you still have to play games with that adjustment. and you don't know how that adjustment is going to take place or how it's going to play out, the impact or the effect of that adjustment when you get in games, if you make a lineup adjustment, right? So when you make a lineup adjustment, you want to see, okay, how does this actually work in the game and what effect does it have on the game? And the playoffs at this point, to me, is not the time to make that, to do that experiment. If you were going to do that, you would have done it already, in my opinion. And I know people are going to say, well, coaches all the time make changes, this and that. Most of the time, those changes, that when coaches make a change to their lineup entering the playoffs, most of the time it's a team that's maybe in the 8th seed and they're trying to get a spark. Or the team is down 2-0 and they're trying to get a spark. You know what I'm saying? And then they say, well, you know what? Let's make this change because maybe this is going to spark us. Normally, teams, that's what the regular season is for. You work through those lineups and you have it ready to go when the playoffs start. So, you know, all I'm saying is, you know, there's no sense in beating a dead horse. It is what it is. You know, the lineups are stepping out there on the floor. Rock with it. Trust what Tibbs is doing. He's gotten us this far. And let's go with it. Worry about making those changes next season. That's all I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. So today, as far as the lineups are concerned, Elfrid Payton will most likely be, you never can say, but will most likely be the starting point guard, with Reggie Bullock, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and Nerlens Noel filling out the remainder of the lineup. And then for the Boston Celtics, it's hard to say who's going to be starting and who's going to be doing what with the Celtics. You just don't know. But my projection is that Peyton Pritchard will be starting at point guard, Aaron Naismith at shooting guard, Romeo Langford at small forward, Semi Ojeleye at power forward, and Luke Cornett at center. So that's what I'm projecting, and we'll see how that turns out. You also got guys like, I can't even think of it. Let me see who's on the bench. You got
Taco Fall. Yeah,
you got Taco Fall at the center spot on the bench. You got Tremont Waters on the bench. You also have Jabari Parker on the bench, Carson Edwards on the bench. So, you know, they have a couple of guys that they can throw in there. Gary Williams, Grant Williams is also on the bench. You know, so any of those guys could end up being a starter today. Who knows what they may choose to do. I know against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Luke Cornett was the starting center versus the Timberwolves yesterday. Peyton Pritchard was the starting point guard versus the Timberwolves. Ojeleye was the starting power forward. So I threw those guys in there, and we'll see where they go from there. As far as the keys to the game, ladies and gentlemen, it's pretty simple to me. Stay focused. That's number one. Stay focused on the prize. There's something out there that you want. You got to stay focused to go get it. Do not underestimate the Celtics. I know they're playing a bunch of guys that, you know, they're playing some young guys, some guys who've jumped around the league. They're playing some guys who want to make their name in the league. And this is a chance. If they can come in, they can play well against a top-rated defense, or they can, help the Celtics knock the Knicks out. You know, teams relish in the idea of being able to, knock a team off of what they were supposed to do. Right? And they know the Knicks are looking for that 4th seed. So if these players can come in and knock the Knicks out and stop them from getting the 4th seed, they're going to feel like they've done their job and maybe even made the road to the finals easier for the Boston Celtics. Right? Play their part. Because who knows how things shake up? You just never know how things shake up. For example, let's say the Boston Celtics were the 8th seed and the Knicks were the 4th seed, and the Celtics somehow beat Philadelphia. Then it could be the Celtics. I don't know. I don't know how it would go. Could be the Celtics and the Knicks. Who knows? You know, and maybe somehow, some way, they do themselves a favor. So this team's going to be fighting. They'll be fighting to try to knock the Knicks out. If not for playoff purposes, then just because they're a rival. We need a team to play team suffocating defense today. Like, let's suffocate these guys. And, I'd like to try to take them out early. Suffocate them, take their confidence away, take their heart away, let them know there's no chance that you're going to upset us. The Knicks, that's the mentality that the Knicks need to come in with. Let's suffocate these guys on defense. Some of the things that we've been lacking over the past few games, defensive, offensive rebounding. I want to see the Knicks come in and really dominate the glass against this team. Don't play any games with them. Right? That's an area in the playoffs I do have some concern, especially, allowing teams to grab offensive rebounds. We've seen it a lot of times this season, where the Knicks have a chance to win a game, and because they can't corral the rebound, they allow the team to grab the offensive rebound. The game goes into overtime, like versus the Lakers, or we just end up losing the game. So I want to see us shore up this rebounding, man. Keep the ball moving. Continue to play like we've been playing team basketball on both sides of the ball. Move the ball, pass it. Find the open shooters, knock them down, and have low turnovers. We've been good at not turning the ball over, protecting the ball. Games like this, it can get away from you. I don't want it to get away from us. We gotta stay there, stay with it, and stay in it. You know what I'm saying? Those are my keys to the game today, ladies and gentlemen. But the big thing is the first two: stay focused and do not underestimate the Celtics. Those are my big two. And go get that 4th seed. Andy, anything you want to add to that there?
Well, I totally agree with the don't underestimate the Celtics. Like we said, they're playing with the 3rd string guys. But for example, a guy like Peyton Pritchard, he was playing 3-on-3 World Championship basketball from the United States. And believe me, I saw a couple of his games there. He can, score in bunches, threes like 6, 7, 8 in a row. So, you can't underestimate guys like that. But on the other hand, I think we should handle them. I hope, for example, Peyton will get more minutes so, Rose can rest. I hope we can see, Frank and Knox on the court so the rest of the guys can rest. And, a win here not only gets us the 4th seed, it also, makes us go into the first round on a wave, on a winning streak, feeling good about ourselves. And that's really important, if you ask me, for a team that basically wasn't in the playoffs with this roster. So I think it's really better for us to get into the playoffs, on a high note and on a wave, right?
Yeah, definitely. What's your outlook? What do you expect from this team in the playoffs? And next week I plan on doing some coverage of the playing games, and obviously doing some breakdowns of the Knicks in their first round matchup. Like some really in-depth breakdowns. But just what's your outlook for the playoffs and the Knicks and the experience that they have on this team?
Well, Sim, if we get the 4th seed, and that's like, for me, it's like 95%. The 5% I just leave in case, I don't know, something really bad happens, right? So we're going to drop off to the 6th seed. But in the 4th seed, we're going to be playing the Hawks. And, the Hawks already retooled their roster. They got plenty of shooters. But let's not forget that they're also a team that wasn't in the playoffs. They had, a coaching change mid-season. So, they might be the perfect matchup for the Knicks. I think I'd rather see the Hawks than the Heat, definitely. And, just to add here, if the Heat go on this to the 6th seed, right, like we think they will, the only way we see the Heat is in the finals of the Eastern Conference. So I'm really happy about that. I'm not. It's not like I'm looking already past the Hawks, but I also don't think it's going to be a sweep our way or the other way. I think it's going to be at least 6 games of a series because, Trae Young and the young guys there, the shooters there, they won't give up, easily. So it's definitely going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's going to be a great matchup. And of course, I think the Knicks can beat the Hawks, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
The matchup it's a tough one for the Knicks, right? Because the way that they play offense, their offensive style is troublesome for the Knicks, in my opinion. They move the ball, they move the man, and to me, that's troublesome for the New York Knicks. I do think that Tom Thibodeau is going to have a good defensive scheme, and you may see some things from the Knicks that you haven't seen, like things that they've been working on throughout the season, but you haven't necessarily seen it during the season, right? Teams do that a lot. They work on mostly is defensive schemes. They work on different defensive schemes in practice against each other. Maybe every once in a while they'll pull it out in a game just to see how it works, and we don't even notice it, right? And then all of a sudden in the playoffs, boom, there's this defensive scheme that you're like, wow, where was this? And of course, teams do that on purpose so that they can have, just a little something extra in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's nothing new, Sim, that the Hawks their offense is heavily based on the pick and roll from 1 to 5. I mean, like from Trae Young to Clint Capella, right?
Right.
And you gotta find a way to stop that without giving up the passing lanes, because they got shooters, right? So it's like those two key things, as far as I see it, that needs to be stopped. And also, Clint Capella I think might be the best offensive rebounder in the league currently. So, it's also without giving up the boards.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm really concerned about, the last game we played the Hawks, I feel like they knew that we couldn't stop their screen and roll. Their screen and roll was pretty deadly.
They were milking it.
Oh, my goodness. It was pretty deadly. And, that's got to be something that Tom Thibodeau and the coaching staff is focusing on. The Knicks lock it up today. It's got to be something that they're focusing on during this week of preparation. And I know the team's been out. Tom's he's had his scouts out at games and doing all of that kind of stuff. That right there, that screen and roll with the Hawks, I think, they've got to be queuing in on that, because it was killing us in the previous game. Killing us. So we got to find a way to take that away from them and stop it. Now, late in the game, it was, before Trae Young went out in that last game, it was still a close game. It was right there, but that was tough. And we don't want anyone to be, we don't want them to take advantage of us in that area in the playoffs. So we got to make sure we're queuing in on that. Now, it looks like if we get the 4th seed, then we might get the second round matchup that we liked. That's the Philadelphia matchup. I liked the Philadelphia matchup much better than the Brooklyn matchup. Much better than the Brooklyn matchup. I feel like, I know they have Joel Embiid, and the first time we played them, we got smacked. But then after that, we were right there. Even though they didn't have Joel Embiid out there, we were right there. And Joel Embiid, I'm not taking anything away. He makes a huge difference. But I feel like throughout the season, we've learned how to play against those bigger centers. And we will, I feel good about that matchup. And I also feel good about this, going up against the Philadelphia 76ers. I feel good about the psyche of their team, right? Not that they're not a good team. I'm not saying this at all, ladies and gentlemen, but Doc Rivers, look what he did with the Los Angeles Clippers. They had these great teams, couldn't get to the Western Conference Finals. The Philadelphia 76ers, they've had these great teams, but haven't been able to advance to the finals. Maybe, the Knicks put a little bit of pressure on them. Maybe this starts to seep into the psyche of Doc Rivers and the team, that they haven't been able to fulfill their goals, both the coach and the players. You know what I'm saying? And which it made them to a match made in heaven. Like, hey, you haven't been able to do it out there. We haven't been able to do it here. The 76ers for the past few years have basically been the Clippers of the of the East, right? Let's put them together to see if we can make it work. But if the Knicks start to put some pressure on it, does it start to seep into the psyche of the coach and the players? That's another reason why I liked this matchup. So we'll see what happens. If we get past the Hawks, we got to focus. We got to get the 4th seed first today. Then we got to focus on beating the Hawks. Then we can look at the Philadelphia 76ers if it gets to that point. But that was the matchup that I wanted to have in the second round, not the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, it's basically, like you said, just to add, great thing for the Knicks defense is that Ben Simmons doesn't shoot threes. They have Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid, which tend to play, an ISO game. So it's easier to defend those kind of guys, right? And, I'm not saying that they don't have shooters or stuff like that. But, when the game slows down in the playoffs, you never know how they're going to react. And they might, like you said, lose it, have more slip-ups. And then, then the Knicks can feel blood and they're going to attack. So, like you said, it's better to have, definitely the 76ers as a matchup than the Nets.
Yeah. I see Josh said he likes the Brooklyn matchup much better. I don't. I don't. I just don't feel like we can hang with their scoring. I don't feel like we can hang with their scoring at all.
They don't defend, right? The Nets don't defend, but their firepower is like, I don't know if we could outscore them. That.
Yeah, and I feel like Philadelphia's firepower can be iffy, right? Besides Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris can be iffy. Ben Simmons can be iffy. These other guys can be iffy. There is no iffy with Kyrie, KD, and James Harden, in my opinion. There's no iffy with those guys. The other guys I think can have, they can be up and down, but all of these guys have, and right now with James Harden, I know he's been a little bit iffy in the playoffs, but he's playing more of a facilitator role for this team now. So I like the matchup with Philadelphia much better than Brooklyn. Much better. Obviously, you're right, Josh. Either one of those teams are going to be a killer matchup. Just a killer matchup. Either way you think about it, and a super tough to beat. But I just like that matchup a little bit better because I feel like they can be just a little bit more iffy. I know they won games and everything, and they got the first seed. But I tell you what, if KD, Kyrie, and James Harden were healthy all season long and didn't miss as many games as they did, they wouldn't have that first seed, in my opinion. It'd be the Brooklyn Nets with that first seed. Heck said there's iffy Harden in the playoffs, though. You're right. There is iffy Harden in the playoffs, but he doesn't have to be the primary scorer on this team. He could just facilitate the basketball. James Harden don't have to score. Kyrie and KD can score. So, but, we got a long ways to go before we get to that. Long ways to go. And it starts today. I seen someone in the chat say it's the most important game of the season. It is the most important game, man. We win this game here. We clinch that 4th seed, and then we can start looking at the Atlanta Hawks. Go step by step. Step by step. Someone just said, when is the last time we beat Philly? You know what? To me, none of that matters once we enter into this realm of the playoffs. Maybe it's been a while since we beat them. I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. We've beaten the Nets before. We've lost to the Nets. Once you get into that squared circle, which is going to be Madison Square Garden or wherever Philadelphia plays, that's when it's going to matter. Because, the playoffs is going to be a whole nother beast. But anyway, the game is about to start. Andy, quick prediction of the game.
I hope it's going to be over 15 for the Knicks.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Hopefully, it's going to be they get in there and take care of business. Get it out of there. For anyone who's just joining us, of course, the New York Knicks, they control their destiny. They can clinch the 4th seed today. When you look at the injury report for the Celtics, they're sitting everybody. Fournier's out, Tatum's out, Robert Williams out, Kemba Walker's out, Tristan Thompson is out, Marcus Smart is out, Jaylen Brown is out. For the New York Knicks, Luka Vildoza and Mitchell Robinson are both out. Doesn't mean that Derrick Rose and everybody is going to play, though. Right? So, we'll be watching that. Who actually does play for the New York Knicks. But the Knicks are going to definitely play their main guys. Maybe Rose gets a chance to rest or because you got Alec Burks and you got Emmanuel Quickly, maybe Rose can rest a little bit. We'll see how that goes. As far as the lineups are concerned, you got Alfred Payton, Reggie Bullock, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Nerlens Noel for the Knicks. And projected lineups for the Boston Celtics, Peyton Pritchard, Aaron Smith, Romeo Langford, Sam Ojale, and Luke Cornett. We'll see how that goes. Anything can happen. They can decide to start anybody. Keys to the game, the Knicks need to stay focused. Don't underestimate the Celtics. Play that team suffocating defense that we've been playing all season long. Really focus on this defensive and offensive rebounding. It's been an issue for us over the past few games. I want to tighten it up. I really want to focus on that because I don't want that to be an issue going into the playoffs. Then we got to keep the ball moving, have low turnovers like we've been doing all season long, and go get that 4th seed, man. Any last thing you want to add in there, Andy, before we get out of here?
That I'm going to see you post game.
All right, man. I see you on the post game, ladies and gentlemen. You can go check out Legion of Knicks. He's, I'm sure, likely live right now to stream the game. We're out of here, and be peaceful. I'll catch you on the post game, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the game. We here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go, New York Knicks.